Hi everyone, this is Mark. Welcome to Speak Brave Podcast. All of you who are joining us on video, thank you for subscribing and being part of this community. John, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you for asking, and it's good to see all of you today as well.
I hope everyone can hear us and see us in a full HD camera that we operate. Is that right?
Absolutely.
John, are you ready to get started today?
I'm ready to get started.
Today's podcast that we're going to start in just one moment will be about what is the most important thing in life.
I like that.
Do you feel it?
I feel it.
Is that us recording already or no? That's not.
No,
You
I'm
got
trying
it.
to
Okay.
get us reset here so that we can get started.
Ready?
So what I may do is I may bump out of the program and then bring it back up.
Okay, that's
Just to
good.
make sure that we don't have any glitch here.
Sure. Thank you everyone once again for joining us. And I hope whatever you do in life, your life is bright and you have enthusiasm and you have hope. Because without hope, there truly is nothing. And I hope that hope carries you throughout the day and reminds you, oh, it truly is important. Oh, I don't want to give anything away in the podcast, but this is quite an impromptu, improvisational, and no holds barred, just two good friends talking about things that are important to us. Because I believe my audience, our audience, will benefit from your wisdom and from my perspective and from the stories that will intertwine. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Let's do this.
All right, 3, 2.
What is the most important thing in life? Hi everyone, this is Mark with Speak Brave Podcast. I hope you have a great day, maybe a great week, or maybe a great year. Because I know if you listen to this podcast, your life will improve. That's a guaranteed fact. You can call me, write to me. I will put my reputation on it. John, welcome to the studio.
My pleasure. Good
How
to
are
be
you?
with
How are you today?
Good. I'm
Okay.
glad to be with you too on this beautiful day.
I'd like to get started into the content of this discussion. And I know that we'll travel well. Number one is, what do you believe is the most important thing in life? And let's just go with it. Is it love? Is it health? Is it money? Is it adventure? Is it faith? Is it being alive on earth? Is it your cats? Is it your horses? What is the most important thing in life? And if we can talk about it in the time that we have, I think it's a success. Okay, for example,
You pose
you
a
go
good
first.
question.
You go first, and then I'll go quickly
You
after.
pose a good question there. What is the most important thing in life? Some of us would cut immediately and say, well, my faith is the most
Right,
important
okay.
thing. But I think probably for me right now at this point is just purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Having
a purpose.
love it.
Having a
I
purpose.
love it. Okay, because without purpose, what happens without purpose?
Well, you see, without purpose, you're just going through the motions and life becomes something of a mundane thing. In other words, it's enduring yet another day, and I don't believe in the idea of life being simply going through the motions and enduring and surviving to the end of the day and then starting the whole process over again next day. I think life has to be started from the very, very beginning. Every day must be a day that starts with a purpose in mind. What are the objectives? Where are we going? How can we make it as great a day as possible? What are the wishes?
So the purpose in life starts with one day, but you live one day, in that day, in and out. You don't really worry too much about the next day. However, you are anticipating.
Oh, yeah,
You're
we
anticipating
includes dreams
that the
and
life will
visions and
go on,
hopes
correct?
And dreams, yes.
Okay. John, okay, so for you it's purpose. What about love?
Oh, well, love is a part of the purpose.
Okay, tell
See, love is an
how do you-
ingredient.
Okay, do you mean love like romantic love, or do you mean like love for yourself?
Yes,
Or do you,
yes, all of it.
okay, or
Love is-
love for
love
the
is lots of-
neighbor,
Yeah.
for the
Love
cat,
for mankind, love for
love for
kids,
food?
love for, oh yeah.
What is the most important thing in life, John?
Well-
The reason I want to talk about this because,
Love is a misused word, by the way.
okay, you know what, it is misused, but how?
It's misused because I think it has many, many layers. And when you talk about love and you use it as one word, I don't think it defines love in every possible way.
But what if somebody love and okay, all right, I understand what you're saying because you are talking from the position of experience. You're talking from the position of what of somebody who lives in the trenches, does the work, somebody who's in arena of life, and you push through with love, right? However, what if a person who uses this word, lives this word, believes in that word, and they are delusional? Maybe delusional, and then somebody comes up to them and says, you know what, you are misusing the word love. But to that person, in their mind, they are not misusing. How do you deal with that?
I don't know just exactly because the one thing I don't possess is the understanding of the psychology of an
Yes.
individual like that.
Yes, yes.
See, I don't think that way. And that's to my benefit because in understanding love over the course of time in education, I've learned that love is described in 3 different ways, although I think it could be many, many more things. But the 3 Greek words that rise out, that are interpreted as love, L-O-V-E, are, the first one is phileo. Phileo is that love that we have for our fellow man. This is a love that we care about their welfare. We see the best in them. We want the best for them. We don't always appreciate the things they do, but in our heart we want to see them succeed. We want the world to be a better place. And we have compassion for people when they suffer. It's like when I was watching TV a week ago today, this being a Monday, it was a week ago this past Monday, that they had a shooter in Las Vegas who opened up an automatic gunfire and started mowing down these people at a concert on Sunday night. And my heart was broken because, you see, regardless of these lives as to the way they're living their lives, the things they believe, the things they don't believe, the causes that they support, the causes they don't support, even the way they conduct their lives, any of the vices, the virtues that they might possess, at the end of the day, humanity is valuable. Humanity deserves the right to live. Humanity deserves a chance to be able to be its best. And for someone to wantonly kill without seemingly any remorse causes me to hurt in my heart. So that's a love. And then the next Greek word that comes in, of course, is eros. Eros is that which is attached to physical love. And that physical love manifests in so many, many different ways. And I don't want to get into the details of it because that can be anything from a very, very sound, solid relationship that is totally unselfish in a marriage to self-love, which is selfish, and really it can even be perverted.
Well, we have to have self-compassion.
Yeah.
And I believe, I understand where you're trying to say. There's so many angles.
Motives.
And there's so many different things. So there's a 3. So what's the 3rd one?
Agape. Agape is the Greek word for perfect love or godly love. For those of us that have a faith-based belief, we believe that the Creator is the embodiment of all love, that all love emanated from Him and is a creation by Him. And to be able to strive to love in the manner that He does, which is a unconditional love. It's a love that will love somebody whether they're at their worst or whether they're at their best.
Okay. So with that type of, so we talked about, what was the first? Oh, purpose, right? Talked about purpose.
I talked about purpose.
All right. Then love.
Love would be there.
Love
would have to be there for purpose to have meaning.
Okay. So we are discussing what are the most important things in life. Purpose, love. What about hope?
Hope is definitely important. I'm glad you brought it up.
Hope. Because
I don't think you can survive without hope, because if you can't believe that there's a better day, then obviously you're mired in a hopelessness. And hopelessness is a terrible place to be.
what stands in our way? What stands in our way in learning and using hope in everyday life?
Others, individuals who want to make us believe, and their intentions may even be good, but they want us to believe that some things are just as they are and they're not going to change. It's inevitable that this situation is going to continue and we cannot be extracted from it. People with diseases, for example, fall into that category often because their malady is, in many cases, incurable.
Okay, so that brings the next question. Purpose, love, hope. What about health?
Health is something we should all desire for, because if we lose health, and there are plenty of examples of people that have lost health, although I'm not into sick-minded voyeurism, where I want to just sit and observe and say to myself, thank God I'm not like that. You can't help but sit there and say it, because if you, for example, on some cable satellite networks, there are programs about people that are afflicted with severe morbid obesity. There is a program, for example, on one of the cable channels called My 600-Pound Life.
I heard about it.
It is a painful program to watch. Painful because these individuals are trapped in a body that they hate. But what they hate more is, in their self-loathing, is that they're the ones that have contributed to their bodies being that way. Because they have an addiction.
Food addiction,
Addictions,
right?
yes.
Addiction.
But those addictions go beyond just food. There are other addictions too. These addictions being, for example, a feeling of worthlessness,
Okay.
a lack of hope. A
Yeah,
belief
because it's rooted in their physical appearance.
it's rooted also in their
So-
environments too, to a great degree.
Let's continue. What is the most important thing in life? The reason I ask this is I want listeners and everyone who is part of this journey is to ask themselves, what is the most important thing in my life? Is it purpose? Is it love? Is it hope? Is it health? Is it relationships? Is that people in my life? Is that, and maybe one of those is important because there's no one right answer, is there?
Exactly, there is no one right answer.
And the reason that I wanted to try this, experiment with this topic, is because we don't nearly think enough what is the most important thing in our life. Maybe we do think, but the reality maybe of it is different. And what I have found, and you may have as well, is that on general, over time, people don't like to think. Or they think they're thinking, but the reality of it is they're not thinking. We're just going with the flow. Because thinking deeply about issues is unnerving and maybe unsettling. Because that will open up some things that they're not really ready to encounter and to deal with. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I think what you're saying is that there is a part of us that is in another phrase I've heard before, denial.
Denial. Okay, so denial of what's most important to us?
Denial might be simply because they don't want to confront their own personal reality.
Okay, because it's scary.
Yeah.
Because it's scary,
Or
it's
perhaps
uncomfortable.
Maybe they don't believe they can overcome it.
Okay,
They don't have hope.
all right. One of the things that I always talk about, and I think you have supported me with this, John, is I think one of the most important things to do, to have, and to feel, and to be connected to is self-awareness.
Yes.
Self-awareness. Are you self-aware about who you are and what you want and what you'd like to achieve and to do in this life? Because if you are self-aware and you choose to be self-awareness through and through, it's a risky proposition, is it not?
It is, because it requires you to be honest with yourself, and sometimes the person that we lie to the most is ourselves.
Isn't that the tragedy of life?
It is.
The Greek tragedy was all the players.
A Greek almost comedic tragedy.
Self-awareness. And I think the reason I am interested in this topic is because I want my life to move forward.
Mhm.
And if your life, I'm not talking about you, John, but rather somebody who's listening, do you feel as a listener that you are stuck in some parts because you're not willing to be self-aware and not willing to address what is the most important thing to you?
Mhm.
Is that maybe the most important thing to your living, your being, is a sense of duty?
There is a sense of duty.
A sense of duty to
obligation.
to your family possibly,
Yes.
or maybe it's a sense of duty to your cause,
Mhm.
or maybe it's a sense of duty to your country,
Yes.
or maybe it's a sense of duty
To your God.
Yes. So I'm not going to contemplate which is higher, what's most important, what's most important. It's the questions you have to ask yourself. What is the most important thing? So let's go through that a little bit more. So do you think relationship is the most important thing?
I think relationship is important to a lot of
Relationships.
people. Relationships, yes.
Right.
Do I think it's most important?
Let's say something you
Let's
cannot
let
live without. But I mean, the reason I pose this question is, it's not to be polarizing, but it's just to investigate. What is the most important thing?
By its very nature, the question puts us in a position where we have to actually choose
We
one.
have to choose one thing.
That-
One thing.
That brings us to a point there where we suddenly have to do a level of thinking that perhaps maybe we don't do or we find uncomfortable. But again, I think getting a life that is more complete is coming outside of the comfort zone. I saw an analogy about it the other day at a conference that I was at, where the speaker was talking about personal development. And in personal development, understanding what has priority in one's life is extremely important. And sometimes the greatest difficulty that we have is pinpointing the one thing that we really need to focus on the most. And almost always, in personal development, we must focus on how do we become the best we can possibly be. Is that relationships? Is that mannerisms? Is that love? Is that career? Is that income? Is that health? Is that physical condition? What is it? And then what popped into my mind was something that I think can embody all of those, but it comes down to a singular thing. How do I view myself? What is the most important thing? Self-awareness, which you said. Because in self-awareness, we see ourselves in our current reality, but we also see ourselves in our potential future reality.
Okay, that's interesting. That's
And
very interesting.
in the comfort zone analogy, consider your current reality as your comfort zone. You may not be that comfortable, but this is where you go if too much is against you in resistance and you fall back. Why people quit is because it's uncomfortable to
It's
try to do
uncomfortable.
it.
Okay.
But over here is the thing that you need, but you fear the process of getting to it. And
Because
you're
it's hard.
Yeah.
Because it's unknown.
And
And it requires energy expenditure.
Yeah.
Wow, I love this. Because as you talking and as we are producing this podcast in real time, I'm thinking, not only am I thinking, I am guiding my own thoughts and I'm guiding my own thinking process. And I hope this comes across for everyone who is involved in the Speak Bright podcast. What about, okay, so we talked about purpose, love, hope, duty, relationships, self-awareness. What else? What is the most important? Is that
Fulfillment.
fulfillment? Or did you know that in United States, and there's this movement that has been gaining steam and has no signs of being stopped, is this movement of positive psychology. And this positive psychology thinks about, meditates on, and research is based on the field of happiness. How to find fulfillment, how to find happiness. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
And when everybody thinks about happiness and fulfillment, who's thinking about the other stuff? Oh, we have been thinking about it for centuries, so we no longer want to think about misery and loneliness and darkness.
Here's the paradox of the movement.
Okay. Are you familiar with the movement? Are you familiar with positive psychology?
Here's the paradox of
Yeah.
the movement. Within that specific movement, there are different things that create that sense of positivity in people's life. For some people, positivity is finding a happy marriage. For some people, positivity is being able to raise children. For some people, positivity is success in career. For some people, positivity is financial independence and unrestrained wealth. For some people, positivity is having control over your circumstances at every single moment of every day.
Stop on that just for one second. Control over your circumstances. Isn't that a big one?
That is a very big one.
That's a big one for me. I don't know if it's a big one
It's
for
big
you.
for me too.
You know, control over the circumstances. Do you mean like being financially secure, being financially responsible, having a good health?
Have essential comforts.
Okay, what else? Control over your circumstances. Because that can be stretched out in the different planes of understanding, isn't it?
Controlling your circumstances is not being bound to anything that would prevent you from doing what you want to do and fulfilling whatever it is you want to achieve in life,
Okay,
which is maybe a part of your purpose.
okay.
Like, for example, think of the person with a 9-to-5 job, and I'm not being critical of the 9-to-5 job, but I was in the W-2 family for years. I call it the W-2 family because that's
That's
the
an
people that are
interesting,
working the job with hours.
moniker.
That's called
Okay.
job keeping. Because what it is we're exchanging our time for
Money.
money.
Dollars.
But the money has
Hours
been,
for dollars.
but the money is assigned a value by the employer. Okay, this is an important thing because individuals that are satisfied with what they get based upon the job they are doing and are willing to settle for that, that is, they feel their circumstance and they're perfectly content in that. But I would be willing to say that the vast majority of people working in exchange of their time for money from an employer who is determining what the value is of the time they are giving are individuals who are not satisfied over the course of time with what they are receiving for the time they are giving. This is why you have people looking in new directions for greater income. This is also one of the reasons why we have in finance, as it relates to income production, there are caps. In my company, when I was working full-time for a W-2 provider, and a very good company, by the way, that paid, I think, a very excellent wage to the people that were doing the kind of work that I was trained and equipped to do, and did well. But I always knew in that job that there would arrive a point where the raises would stop because all pay grades in this company have what's called a
limits?
Control point.
Okay.
When you arrive at control point, you basically have topped out in that classification of work. And unless you get a promotion
To a different level,
a higher pay grade, you cannot increase your standard except through any cost of living increases that might occur, or the occasional bonus, could I say, if the company is profitable. There becomes a degree of dissatisfaction that can emerge into what was once a fairly satisfying experience. This is where a person begins to question, is my career, is my income, is my financial situation providing me with control of my circumstances?
Okay, so we, as responsible adults, responsible human beings, as responsible
Contributors to this world.
as creatures with souls and lives and
And,
gifts.
we are important to this world. All of us have a purpose.
We do. So the reason I have this potpourri of discussion, what is the most important, it is if I always like to focus on something I can do well and think about and become proficient, maybe gain mastery. But the more I think about this, even in our discussion, John, is that there's no one thing that is the most important. The more I prod this topic and poke at it, I understand there's not one thing that you can't live without. Because if you create this holy place or holy,
The Holy of Holies.
The Holy
I call
of
it the interceptor.
Yeah.
The inner sanctum.
right? So if you do that, that means everything else goes to the wayside. Not maybe the wayside, but it doesn't receive as much attention. And I think that's not the full picture, because life is so multidimensional, it's so many angles. You cannot possibly do everything. But I think if you put yourself in a corner and say, this is the most important thing, I think you lose out.
I believe you do, because you're not
So
willing to
that's-
entertain other things that can come in that can be companions.
So do you then do you concur that that's not the right question to ask?
I agree. It is
So
not the right
what
question.
is the right question to ask in this situation? Because I want people and audience members to really think about what are the, okay, so if you don't go with one, if you don't go what is one most important thing, what are the most important things to you? So have a multiple question then. Unless, what is your wrinkle on this?
Here's my wrinkle. Why are we here?
You mean on Earth, or in
Yeah.
this room,
Why are we-
or
why
you're
are-
listening to this
Why are we
podcast?
here in this life?
Okay, so ask yourself, why are we here? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's
Why am I-
so what? That's one question, right?
Yeah, why am I here?
I don't know why. I mean, you like coffee, you
Why
like your
am
wife,
I here?
you have a son. You want to do the best that you can, and I think you gain fulfillment, happiness in achieving your goals. Because you have told me at the beginning of this year that your power word for this year is what?
Resolve.
Resolve.
And now it's been adopted as my power word for life.
For life. So that ties into your question, why are we here?
Yeah.
Why are we here? Because we want to entertain us, we want to entertain others, we're going on trips, we learn, we help, right?
Well, even in the entertaining part of it, it's moved to a new level.
Okay,
This is
tell us.
part of that growth process,
Okay.
because you see, the circumstances of life can do one of two things to us.
Right.
If you want to simplify. they can either make us an incredibly negative and depressed individual, and we will never really see any benefit.
And you know, who wants that?
Exactly. but there are
Who
people-
wants that,
But there are
John?
people that live in it.
Okay.
Yeah, but, or.
How do you break- okay.
Or through the circumstances of life make us strive to increase and raise our level.
Right.
To bring ourselves to a higher level. To see ourselves in a better place. To
It's
see
a
ourselves.
better life.
That requires
position,
us to
yes.
not only look at life in terms of what value it brings to us, but we need to look at our lives in terms of what value we bring to living and to people that we meet in living. That's a noble thing, but it's a real thing, and it's a thing that can be hoped for, and I think it's a thing that can be achieved and strived for. I was going to say this.
Right.
If you ask me why am I here 44 years ago, when I first got married, after having graduated from college,
Congratulations, by the way.
my answer would be vastly different.
Okay, so
Because, you see, I do have the benefit of those years of experience, those years of successes coupled with overwhelming defeats. I have those years of good feelings mixed with those years of bad feelings. I know what it's like to be in a job I hated. I know what it's like to be in a job I loved. I know what it's like to arrive at a point where you walk away from someplace into a new opportunity, and the opportunity is very undefined. You just know you see something, a doorway, a light, whatever, a glimmer, and you want to go to it.
glimmer of hope, yes.
And you go towards.
Uh-huh.
And as you go, you are learning and adjusting.
Along the way.
You're meeting resistance, and the question you have to ask yourself is, do I care enough to do it that I'm willing to push my way through the resistance?
And the,
Ooh,
and the answer for you is,
Well, for me,
Yes.
if
Is
if what I see has value, I will face the resistance and I will push
through.
it.
okay. Thank you, John. This is amazing. I think we started at one point in a podcast, and I think we have both moved to another point. At least that have happened for me, and I think maybe for you as well, right? So we started with the question, what is the most important thing for you, for the audience, for me? And we have arrived and kind of came to the realization that that's not the right question to ask. The right question, maybe a better question would be, what are the most important things to you? And even better question is, why are we here? Is it to take up space? Is it to contribute, to build something, to help move life forward? That is the question. And one of the best things that I always vouch for, and I am an evangelist for, is self-awareness.
Yes.
Self-awareness is the key, the pathway to fulfillment.
It is.
Fulfillment and strength.
It's the doorway to becoming comfortable in your own skin and knowing that your limitations are only those that you place on yourself.
Absolutely. John, thank you for this lively discussion, and I hope this benefited you.
Oh, it does.
And I hope it
This is my wheelhouse.
and I hope it benefited everyone who joined us on this journey. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us this week. And I hope that as you build, as you go through your life, you never forget to speak brave with courage and conviction. And I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. John, see you next week. Thank you for everyone who's subscribed and been part of this journey. Cannot wait to share what's in store for you next time. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was impromptu. This was a gift to you. Write, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.